Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name's Nathan Harvey, and as always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. We're starting a little bit early today. I don't know how you doing today. It's weird. We're 2 hours early, so I want to know how you doing so far today on a very
I'm
hot.
doing fine. I'm sorry I
Monday.
can't do it the regular time tonight, but I'm glad we're able to do it, even though we're early.
Yeah, no, it's fine if we do it early, but 90. It feels like 95 right now. I mean,
It's very hot out.
it's not like it's 4:30 and it's still blazing hot out. But we got a big show today, regardless of the time. We got a new thing we're talking about. Something we normally talk about as sort of a filler-in topic when it comes to the end of most shows, at least recently now. But it's time to headline it specifically, just for you. So let's get right into our first topic. So the Yankees losing streak continues all the way to now 8 games. They are now 9 games out of the last wildcard spot, which is currently being held by the Seattle Mariners. Red Sox are actually making some sort of right now a leap, I would say, because of this sweep. So I want to know, what's your reaction to the Yankees' collapse this season, and also your hopes and potential expectations for a potential Red Sox resurgence to their season?
Well, I'm quite surprised that the Yankees are so poor this year. I mean, having one guy, Judge, get hurt, they just collapsed after that, basically. They have a lot of pitchers that are hurt. I don't know. They don't seem to stay healthy. Maybe they need a new trainer or something. They always seem to have problems with the people being hurt, and usually it's early in the season, and then they come together and make a run at the end. Now that they still have players hurt, Judge has come back. He hasn't played very well since he came back. They're 6-17 since he came back. So I'm quite surprised that the Yankees are this poor. I didn't think we talked on Friday, what was the series going to be, and I said the Red Sox would win 2, and you said they'd win 1.
Right.
And they won all 3, and we're both
Yeah.
surprised, right? I was very surprised they swept the Yankees.
What do you think about the Red Sox, though? Do you have any? You know what? We'll talk about the Yankees, then we'll both jump in with the Red Sox.
Okay.
So there's a stat out here. This is the Yankees so far through this 8-game losing streak. They've had 3 of the worst stats in the MLB so far. Runs per game, 2.5. Batting average, 168. That is terrible. Slugging percentage, 304. Team ERA, a little over 6. Like, this is really, really bad for a team that's coming off of a season where, yes, they did make the playoffs and actually had a pretty decent run in the playoffs, and Judge hitting 62 home runs. And people thought when Judge got hurt, when Judge gets back, the Yankees will be back in form again. He's their only hitter. That hasn't really been the case. Judge has been not that great, and you know what? Judge wasn't the answer to revive whatever the Yankees had left. I also don't think Nestor Cortez, who's on the 15-day IL, if or when he comes back, he's going to be this new spark plug to get this team back on track. Judge in the last 5 games is batting 166. I mean, he's not even hitting well. I think he has 10 strikeouts and 18 at bats. It's not pretty at all. So I don't know. Judge is not the answer. Giancarlo Stanton's the answer. Is not the answer. Anthony Rizzo's not the answer.
Where is he? He didn't even play in this series.
He's also hurt as well.
Oh.
The Yankees are dealing with a couple injuries here, but you know what? Regardless of the fact, the Yankees weren't all that great. They had a little bit of life early on in the season. But I mean, they were behind the Rays. The Rays had that huge run early on. They've actually fallen off a pretty decent cliff, and the Orioles have stepped up. The Red Sox now, or let's just jump into the Red Sox portion of this. They seem to be coming, maybe coming alive a little bit. However, against the Yankees is not saying much this season because they only have 1 loss on the year when it comes to playing the Yankees. So, I don't know. Do you have faith in your Boston Red Sox? What are you expecting so far
I
down
just
the line?
have one more thing to say about the Yankees. They got to be, the fans and the organization got to be pretty disappointed in Giancarlo Stanton.
I would say so, yeah.
I mean, he's got a huge contract, and he can't hit the broadside of a barn. he can't.
This season's not been a good season for him. He's batting under
terrible.
200. He's batting under 200.
Under 200.
Yeah.
That is terrible.
On base percentage is 281. It's bad.
281.
It's bad.
And how many home runs has he got?
He has 18, which is not bad. But it's sort of, I feel like it's that was it Chris Davis on the Orioles where it would be a strikeout or a home run.
Yeah, right.
Either one of them. So I guess it's a little bit of that effect.
Yeah. So the Red Sox, I'm feeling pretty good about them right now, but they've got a tough schedule, right? They have the second hardest
schedule in the MLB.
The rest of the way, and it begins tonight in Houston. They don't even get a day off after the series against the Yankees. They got to go play Houston for 3 games, and that's going to be real challenging because Houston's ahead of them, and Houston's not going to want to let the Red Sox make up ground on them. So I see that's on the road too. So I see that as being very challenging. Although I do think the Red Sox have been playing better. The hitting has been good, timely hitting. Justin Turner having a great year, really a very good year. Aaron Boone mentioned him yesterday in the postgame. He said, Justin Turner beat us, and he got those 2 hits. Really, he had 4 RBIs out of the 5. And it looks like Rafael Devers is playing better now in terms of his hitting. He had a lot of hits in the Yankees series, so they seem to be hitting the ball. They've got some young guys that what's his name? Reyes.
Pablo Reyes.
Pablo Reyes has been playing very well. So
Yeah.
he's worked his way into the lineup. What happened to Arroyo? I know he hasn't been in there for quite a stretch. I don't know what happened to him. They've been playing that Urias guy instead of him, who had a grand slam in the Yankees series. That guy's hitting like 170 or something.
Yeah, on the year, it's not pretty.
He hit that grand slam. You have the catchers are playing well. Connor Wong, Reese McGuire playing well. So things are looking up for the Sox, but they haven't had the toughest schedule. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Nationals. So the Nationals actually been playing better though in the second half of the year.
Right.
So do we have the Red Sox schedule? Is it something we can look at?
I do not have the Red Sox schedule.
Yeah.
However, I will say this. I talked about this. I don't know if it was on Friday or on Monday, because we've talked about the Red Sox a number of times in the post show. Their first day off is September 7th. They play every single day, travel to multiple cities up until September 7th. So, and I told you, the chances are that you're going to see Devers out there every night, Justin Turner, Trevor Story, Duvall out there every single night. Is just unlikely, especially if they do have a little bit of a run, because you want to save those guys for a potential postseason run. You don't want them to be gassed by, I don't know, let's say they win a wild card game, let's just say by chance. They may be burnt out by game 2 of the divisional series. You have no idea. So my guess would be you're going to see a bunch of no-names that are coming up from, not the starting, rotation of guys you bring up. You're going to probably see a bunch of nobodies as pitchers or as rotational guys. I mean, Pablo Reyes, he was just some guy, really. I mean, the Red Sox brought him up. You didn't know who he was. Then all of a sudden, he's hitting 300. And he's been incredible for the Red Sox so far. So, I mean, it's going to be difficult. As you said, yes, they do have the second toughest schedule. They play the Orioles 7 times, the Rays 5 times, the Dodgers 3 times, the Rangers 3 times, the Astros 7 times, the Blue Jays, who are like the lowest tier of the toughest opponents, they play them 3 more times. And then your easiest opponents, you play the Yankees 4 more times, you play the White Sox 3 times, you play the Royals 3 times. Now they haven't actually had the best luck with some of the bad teams. The Royals, they didn't have much luck against the Royals. The White Sox will have to wait and see, and then the Yankees, they've been dominant against the Yankees, so I have no fear when it comes to that.
The law of averages says that even the worst team winds up winning a few, and I think with the Yankees, there's a pride thing there, being beat by the Red Sox so badly this year. I think that 4-game series in Boston is going to be very hard for the Red Sox.
Yeah, so I'll bring it up right now. As of right now, we're taking a look at the Red Sox here. If I can bring it up relatively quickly, which I believe I can. Here we go. So the wild card right now, the Red Sox are currently 3 games behind the wild card. The Mariners are in that last spot. The Blue Jays are a half game out. So really, it's between the Blue Jays and the Mariners and the Red Sox, I feel like, for the wild card, because the next highest outside of the Red Sox are the Angels at 8.5. Think about it. I threw the Angels away. I throw the Angels away every single year because that's kind of what the Angels are. They have 2 really, really great players, but you can't get anything done with them. Yeah. So the fact that the Yankees have fallen even behind the Angels is saying just how bad this has been for the Yankees. The fact that, I have zero hope. Yes, I understand Ohtani's probably the greatest player, or is definitely on track to be the greatest player in MLB history, at least two-way player. I think he could be the greatest right now. You have Mike Trout, for a number of years was the best player in baseball. And have we even seen them in the postseason? I don't think we've seen.
Mike Trout's only been in the postseason, I think, once.
And I feel like that was very early on in his career. So it's been a very, very long time since we saw Angels postseason baseball. And the Yankees just made it to what? Was it the ALCS, if I'm not mistaken? So, and they have fallen down to 9 games behind in the wild card.
I don't think anybody behind the Red Sox is going to catch the Red Sox, even if they don't make it to the wild card. The problem for the Red Sox, as I see it, is the number of teams that are ahead of them.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just the Blue Jays. It's the Mariners and the Blue Jays, right? Both of them. And both of them have, we looked at the strength of schedule, like the Blue Jays have very weak. I think
it's the 23rd toughest schedule.
23rd toughest schedule. So they have.
Yeah, 23rd.
It's going to be easier for them. And the Mariners also, their schedule, strength of schedule was pretty easy,
too. The Mariners have the 26th toughest schedule, and the Astros have the 28th toughest schedule.
Yeah.
And then I guess Tampa Bay is the only one where you could say, oh, maybe they have a chance, because Tampa at the moment, they have 5 games, they have a 5-game nice lead in the wild card. But they have the 7th toughest schedule. So if they have another huge drop off like they did, about midway through the year, there's potentially that the Red Sox could, step up and, make that instead of it's really right now a 4-team race. The Astros, the Mariners, the Blue Jays, and the Red Sox. If the Rays start to dip a little bit, that could be a 5-team race. Add the Rays in there to potentially, allow the Red Sox a little sneak in. But, I think I said way early on in the season, like maybe game 4, when the only possibility they had at winning was comebacks or walk-off home runs or something like that, because they had terrible, terrible pitching, but their hitting was on fire. I said it's going to be tough to see this team win 70 games. Well, I'm happy to say I'll probably be wrong with that. They're at 66 right now, but I also didn't expect the AL East to be the toughest division in baseball. That is something that I do not think has ever happened, at least recently. It's normally been a 2-team race, and that generally was the Yankees and the Red Sox. It wasn't the Orioles were dominant. The Rays have been great for their number of years now. The Blue Jays make it interesting every year. The Red Sox, they've had dips and valleys, but they've also had a few peaks in there. And the Yankees consistently, generally, have been okay to good. But if it comes to postseason time and the Yankees are in, they're generally pretty disappointing in the biggest and brightest moments.
You think Aaron Boone's job's in jeopardy?
I think it should have been gone last. No, they made the ALCS, so it makes sense. But yeah, I do think it's in jeopardy. I absolutely think it is because you've had great moments. You've bought a lot of players. I mean, you have one of the highest payrolls in baseball right now. The Mets and the Yankees, 2 New York teams with massive payrolls and have been huge disappointments every single year. Especially now, the Mets. I mean. Now looking at it, I don't think spending over $320 million, gives you a lot of confidence. If anything, it puts a lot of pressure.
It's the Yankees spent all that money. Who the hell do they have on the field? Most of those players I never heard of before. The starting 9 out there last yesterday, there wasn't any besides Stanton and Judge and Torres. Right? Who the hell were the rest of those guys? I don't know who they were.
You got a couple. I'm not going to say great pieces. You got a couple interesting pieces.
Who's their catcher? I never heard of him. I don't know what they're paying those guys. I mean, Garrett Cole, he makes big money. He makes big money. I guess their pitching staff.
It is difficult against the Red Sox, though.
Yeah.
But they have that guy Volpe who's supposed to be this guy. Yeah, he's supposed to be this really
rookie,
good
so
prospect.
He's not making a ton of money.
He's batting low 200s.
He's not making a ton of money.
Right.
Right.
DJ LeMahieu is interesting.
I forgot him.
He's interesting, but he's not a good player.
He's getting old.
A great player.
He hasn't played well the last couple of years.
He batted over 4 in that last game.
Yeah.
But you know what? Red Sox are looking up. Yankees are looking straight down.
I would say,
normal,
if the Red Sox get into the wild card, I think they have a good chance of getting to the World Series, because if they can get through this, if they can get through this schedule, right, and make it to the wild card, then they will win. They will be beating some very good talent. And they will.
That is an interesting take. Yeah. No, I mean. That is something. If the Red Sox make the playoffs,
if they make the playoffs, I think they have a good chance to get to the World Series, because they will have beaten the very good talent to get there. They will have. I mean, they have 7 games against Baltimore, right?
Yeah, 7 remaining.
So they got to win 3 or 4 of those.
And
at least.
And they also have 3 games against the Dodgers,
Yeah.
5 against the Rays.
They got to win every series.
3 against the Rangers.
To make up 3 games now, right? With really 2 or 3 teams, the 3 teams ahead of you for sure.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Houston, how many games is Houston ahead of them?
Houston, I believe, is 3. I'll bring it up.
They're
I believe they're 3.5.
3.5 ahead of the Red Sox. That's all. Well, the Red Sox can sweep this series.
Yeah.
Sweep this series. I don't think they will because they're playing away from home. But then they have Houston again at home, right?
Well, let's just say hypothetically, if the Red Sox go in right and sweep Houston, I think there's a very good chance. Regardless, they'll be a half game behind Houston. But I think if they sweep them, I think they'll be in that last wild card spot already.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, there's 2 other teams there, the Blue Jays and the Mariners.
The Blue Jays are half game out, and then the Mariners have that solidified last spot. But, I mean, it puts them right there. It basically puts them in if they're not already.
They've missed a lot of opportunities here. They've lost 3 in a row to the Blue Jays recently, right? And they lost, 2 out of 3 to the Seattle when they were on the West Coast. So
I believe so, yeah.
Those are 2 teams ahead of you. You got to do better than that.
And it's not good when you have trouble against the Athletics, which happened a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, right. They lost 2 out of 3 to them.
And you don't look great against the Royals either. And now you have to play. Was it the Royals again? You're hoping to at least.
Hopefully, the Royals will be playing all their AAA team members by then. I would think.
You also play the White Sox, who haven't been great this year.
Again, the White Sox shouldn't be playing. They should be playing their farm team, too.
And the Yankees are the Yankees.
I think the Yankees ought to throw in the towel, too. They might as well bring up the AAA players.
You know what's funny? I remember a quote that I actually mentioned on this show. Nestor Cortez, I believe, said that the Yankees, it might have been Nestor Cortez, but I'm not too sure. The Yankees-Red Sox matchup hasn't been what it used to be because the Red Sox were so bad. Well, I mean, I think they have to take back that quote. The Red Sox have beat the crap out of the Yankees this season. They only have one win against the Red Sox.
I know.
So it's a little bit of karma right there.
The Red Sox were doing really well against the Blue Jays, too, until this last series. They hadn't lost at all to them.
Yeah.
Then they lost 3 in a row.
Well, isn't this year the opposite of last year where the Red Sox couldn't beat the AL East?
They couldn't beat the AL East at all. This year they're doing quite well against them, but we're going to see here in the last month and a half of the season here. Right? Because they're playing a lot of their rivals in the division leading up to the end.
Yeah, you got,
I'll be watching.
Let's see, you have, 9 series left. You're playing 4 of them against your own division rivals.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a fun adventure to watch. I'm sure you'll be on the edge of your seat tonight. Each and every game, especially against those division rivals.
Let's go.
It's going to be interesting. Let's get into our next topic here. So we saw Mac Jones finally get on the field in week 2 of the preseason. And before we talk about Mac Jones, we have to talk about how the Patriots actually started off the game. Well, there was a fumble because Jordan Love quickly looked away from a snap and it flew over his head. And so Mac Jones gets on the field. I'm happy to see Mac Jones. And this was the first play, a Trent Brown false start. Great way to start off your season with a Trent Brown false start. And you know what? It's sort of, how the Patriots have been, especially last year. I said Trent Brown was one of the worst offensive linemen that the Patriots had, and that sort of solidifies it. Trent Brown starting off hot, but, that is what it is. I'm a little bit hard on Trent Brown, but I expect a lot from him because Bill Belichick usually does pretty okay with offensive lines, at least drafting them and building them up. But Mac Jones out there, he went 6 for 9 for 52 yards. He did get sacked twice, and one of them was a strip sack. So he did, I believe it was the only turnover the Patriots had on the entire day. So I don't know, what was your takeaway from the Patriots' first preseason win over the Green Bay Packers?
I thought Bailey Zappi played well.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
The second half, that drive down the field, took him right down the field, scored a touchdown. He ran it in, actually. Yeah, he looked good. He looked really good. I think Mac Jones is a small sample. He was only out there for a short period of time. He did turn the ball over once. So, I don't know. The game ended weirdly, right? Didn't even play the whole game because Bolden got hurt. But yeah. I guess he's not hurt badly. They released him from the hospital.
I believe it was that night as well. Or maybe it was the next morning.
Yeah. So, I think it's hard to say yet. I know the last preseason game was against the Titans, I believe.
Yes.
And
we'll see Patriots
I don't
versus
know whether they're
D-Hop.
going to play Mac Jones much in that game or not. They've been playing Zappy quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Malik Cunningham would have got into the game at the end there if they'd played the rest of the fourth quarter or not. But the Patriots did win the game.
I will say this:
They looked a lot better than the first. They looked a lot better than the first game. That first game, they looked awful. I couldn't believe how badly they looked. They could not run the ball at all. No running at all.
They rushed for 96 yards in this game. Yeah.
And the passing was all a dink and dunk. They didn't have any time to drop back and line up a long pass. So
right.
I'd say that all of that was better. They were a lot better this time than they were in the first game.
I'll say this about the Patriots. The offensive line is abysmal. Absolutely abysmal. Mac Jones was pressured on a third of his snaps, and when the backups came in that second half, Bailey Zappi only dealt with 13% pressure. So Mac Jones was getting lit up. You still had backup tackles, backup guards in there. City So, I guarantee you, the Patriots will get rid of City So because he has gotten burned on basically every single pass rush. But he's absolutely abysmal against backups.
Was he a low round pick too?
I'm not actually sure how low it was, but I remember seeing him. I think it may have been a fourth round. If I'm not, I could have that wrong. I'll look it up really quickly. But the Patriots' offensive line is absolutely terrible. He was a fourth round pick. It was horrible to watch. Mac Jones constantly under pressure. However, there was some hope because the first time we saw Mac Jones on that false start drive that I quickly showed as sort of a troll thing. It actually wasn't that bad. Let's bring up some of Mac Jones's throws here. Look at this one. A quick little, slant route to Kendrick Bourne. Remember him? He was in Belichick's doghouse last year for, being outspoken about how crap the Patriots offense was. That's a good throw. What about this one? Mac Jones on actually, no, this is the same throw, slant throw, just another angle of it. Mac Jones, by the way, got hit on that one. Look at the pressure there. On a 3rd and 8, right? Look at this. When a defender's in Mac Jones' face, he delivers a beautiful high ball strike to Kendrick Bourne. Once again, Mac Jones, look at this, under pressure, a dude right in his face gets drilled. That's just what Kendrick Bourne brings to the Patriots. A beautiful pass, great catch. That's what Mac Jones and Kendrick Bourne and that sort of connection can do to you. And not only that, I will also bring up another video here that I have, and let's bring this up. This was this is a Devontae Parker throw. Devontae Parker doesn't even extend his arms. He still has a crease in his arm. If he just stuck his hand out, that would have been a catch. I mean, the ball was a beautiful delivery. Mac Jones moving up in the pocket, sliding, a beautiful strike. Devontae Parker just didn't extend his arms. And also, once again, that City So number 61 gets burned again, making Mac Jones having to slide, and that's just the way it is. That's basically what Mac Jones' entire day was. Constant pressure. By the way, that strip sack was not something where Mac Jones saw the guy. Actually, he got hit from behind on what could have been a potential throw. And I saw as soon as Mac Jones got strip sacked, I checked Twitter just to see what people were saying. Obviously, they were saying Mac Jones is terrible, he's trash, he's garbage, time for Zappy. And I just don't think a lot of these people understand, or just being trolls out here, that realize, the offensive line was abysmal. Bailey Zappi had nearly a half second more to throw, and in the NFL, a half second to regular perception, regular life, it's very, very quick. But in the NFL, where everything needs to be slow, calculated, and precise, a half second could be an interception, an incompletion, a 30-yard deep ball, a receiver could break free, something like that. So a half second that Bailey Zappi had, that's important in the NFL. I'll also say this. Mac Jones is not a dink and dunk guy, especially in this game. Bailey Zappi actually had an average depth of target about 4 yards fewer than Mac Jones had. Mac Jones' average depth of target was 12.5 yards.
How many passes did Zappi throw?
Zappi threw a total of 22 passes, completed 10 of them.
So it was a lot more than Jones only threw 9 times.
Right. And I think, one of the, what I saw from Mac Jones was there was some competency. And not only that, they allowed Kendrick Bourne to play. It was beautiful. He also hit Demario Douglas up for a beautiful first down. There was a connection there. He also hit him, I believe, on a quick out route. So that Demario Douglas Mac Jones connection seems to be growing a little bit. Kayshon Boutte had a beautiful, quick in route. Was a 42-yard touchdown. Bailey Zappi threw it. Beautiful pass. They have two really good rookie wide receivers that I think could do some damage on that. When the third string wide receivers come on, be maybe even a part of that rotation. Tyquan Thornton maybe takes a step back, at least in a percentage of snaps, which I actually think is not a bad idea because he got way overplayed. But then again, I saw somewhere, Kendrick Bourne was in Matt Patricia and Joe Judge and Belichick's doghouse last year. So just to see him out there, he was a huge part of that Mac Jones passing offense. It's good to see him out there.
Able to keep all of those receivers, right?
You could keep. I mean, here's the thing. I would keep 6 receivers.
So who are they going to pick? They're going to have. They're going to
Parker, Juju, Tyquan Thornton, Kendrick Bourne, Demario Douglas, Kayshon Boutte.
Six wide receivers.
I would keep 6 receivers. You're going to get rid of Trace McSorley. You're going to get rid of a bunch of. I would get rid of City. So he's been absolutely abysmal. There's a couple other offensive linemen that you probably don't need. Yes, obviously you need some depth, but just to have like 3 or 4 tackles, you don't desperately need that in City. So at least in these preseason games and throughout training camp, there were rumors. It hasn't been pretty. And if observing Belichick, probably I've been really deep into the Patriots for probably about 5-6 years now. What I've seen from Belichick is if you can't fit in and work with this offense at a high intensity level, you're not going to be playing. And City So has gotten burned and has allowed so many pressures so far that I do not expect him to be on that starting 53-man rotation roster. But who knows? Belichick could shock me. Hell, he drafted Cole Strange, I believe, in the first round last year. He drafted Kyle Duggar, who was a Div 2 safety. So
Cole Strange was the first round.
I believe
pick?
Cole Strange was the first. I believe you. I'll look it up right now, but I'm pretty sure last year Cole Strange was that first round pick, which was obviously a strange pick. Yeah, first round, 29th pick.
Wow.
Which was weird because last year
he wasn't that good last year.
It wasn't that great. No, I don't know how many sacks he allowed, but he did not play that well. But he didn't play absolutely abysmally. So my takeaway was the offensive line is absolutely garbage. So my stance of Bill O'Brien could draw up the greatest play for Mac Jones and everything could be set, but if Mac Jones doesn't have time to throw the ball to the open receiver on the greatest play ever drawn up in NFL history, it's a throwaway play. It doesn't even matter. It's like it never even happened. So this offensive line needs a lot of work. Trent Brown, not a great start to the 2023 season. The first ever play was a false start. It wasn't a pretty false start or a close one anyway. He went out a good second and a half after that ball was snapped. But I like what I saw from Mac Jones. Bailey Zappi, under 50% completion percentage. Don't love that. Do not love that. But you know what? Maybe I'm just a little bit too harsh.
I think so.
I don't know. I got high expectations.
Yeah.
I mean, if Bailey Zappi is being called, the next Patriots franchise quarterback and better than Mac Jones,
who's saying that?
The fans, Patriots fans.
Yeah.
Hell, the Patriots last year were sort of hinting at Bailey Zappi was the guy last year.
I think Mac Jones is going to be the starter,
as he should be, and I think he showed at least yesterday that he could be the starter if he actually has an offensive line. He had barely above 2 seconds to throw. Bailey Zappi had almost 2.5.
Well, they were putting a lot of other players in there. They were rotating players in and out. They haven't really solidified on the final offensive line, so we'll see.
We saw some starting defensive players. I believe Barmore's out there. Matt Judon got some playing time. There was some pressure. I believe Davis, the defensive lineman, he played a couple. The Patriots defense wasn't terrible. I don't love what I'm seeing from Christian Gonzalez. I don't love it. There's a lot of times where he has an assignment on a man and they target him. He gets the catch, gets a number of yards, and Gonzalez is the one lagging behind. Don't love what I see from what could have been a big steal based on his mock draft report. I mean, we put him in the top 10. I put him, I believe, I think we both thought he would go to the Lions at 6.
He's only played 2 games.
I know, but if you're getting burned by the Texans and burned by Packers backups, I just don't love it, especially from a first-round guy who would have gone top 10 at what we put at number 6.
I'd say it's still a small sample.
Hey, all I'm saying is Patriots have to pick up the pace. It's good that they put Mac Jones out there in this game, and I fully expect them this weekend when they go up against D-Hop, who could have been a Patriot this year. If D-Hop does play, I expect him to, maybe we'll see Christian Gonzalez on DeAndre Hopkins. Go maybe one-on-one. I think that'll be an exciting matchup.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping I get to see D-Hop out there anyway. So, maybe it's you should have been on our team. And if Ryan Tannehill and Mac Jones go head-to-head, Mac Jones better light it up. Be like, hey, you picked the wrong quarterback. You picked the wrong quarterback. And I think that would be interesting to wait and see for. All right, so we're going to take a break, but coming up, Bucs head coach Todd Bowles has yet to name a starting quarterback and isn't in any sort of rush to get that done. Also, Jordan Love looked actually pretty promising so far this preseason, but how will that translate to this regular season? And finally, we talk about, did Trey Lance's comeback versus the Broncos mean he still has a future in San Francisco? We debate that right after this.
Introducing video podcasts on Spotify.
Transform your storytelling into a show everyone can watch
Or listen to.
Easily upload your video through Anchor, Spotify's free podcast creation tool.
So whether you're showing off a new recipe,
Interviewing an exclusive guest,
or uncovering the next mystery,
you can now reach a whole new audience with Spotify.
podcasting just became more than audio.
Create with Anchor, watch on Spotify.
You have a lot to say. Maybe you've thought, I should start a podcast. Meet Anchor, the easiest way to make a podcast ever. It's a powerful mobile app and web tool that lets you record a podcast anywhere and distribute it everywhere. It's great whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out. And it's 100% free. You can record your show straight into Anchor on your phone, iPad, or the web, using any mic you want. Record alone or with friends or co-hosts anywhere in the world. You can add background music and transitions, and your listeners can send you voice messages that you can incorporate right into your next episode. If you want to produce your show using another app, you can upload your own audio directly from web or mobile, and still take advantage of Anchor's totally free podcast hosting. Once your podcast is ready to publish, Anchor can automatically distribute it to every major podcast platform. That includes Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, so your listeners can hear your show wherever they want. And on the web, you can see detailed analytics about how people are listening. Plus, you'll get a great-looking profile page where anyone can listen to your podcast or subscribe to it. And if you want to ask your audience to support your work, Anchor makes it easy to collect monthly payments from the people who love your podcast and want to see it grow. You really don't need a recording studio, expensive equipment, or a bunch of technical knowledge to deal with a podcast feed. Just get started and join the diverse community of podcasters already on Anchor. We can't wait to hear your podcast.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name's Nathan Harvey, and as always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic of today's show. So Todd Bowles said recently that he is not fully committed to an official quarterback one between Baker Mayfield and former second-round pick Kyle Trask. Pretty interesting. We saw that the OC Dave Canales said about a couple weeks ago how the quarterback competition was tightening between the two quarterbacks, Baker Mayfield being the first overall pick a number of years ago, and Kyle Trask being the second-round pick, I believe, in the 2021 NFL Draft. So I thought it was pretty interesting, and I said Baker Mayfield's career, if he does lose this job, could be in danger. So I want to know, who do you think should be the starter for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Week 1?
I think Baker Mayfield will be the starter.
Will be. Do you think he deserves it?
Well, he hasn't played so hot lately. Well, in preseason, he's thrown a lot of interceptions in the camp. He said that it matters when you get on the field, and he's trying different things, and it's an experimental time, so he doesn't make too much of it. I'm not sure Todd Bowles feels the same way. I do think that he's the bigger name, actually, and I think he'll be on a short leash. And the fact that he didn't play in the second preseason game, I think, says that they're preparing him to be the starter.
Yeah, I would understand that, because a lot of the potential Week 1 starters, like, for instance, Anthony Richardson did not play in this preseason game for the Colts in Week 2.
I don't understand that. Why wouldn't they let him play? He's never played in the NFL before.
Right. And
why wouldn't they give him a little time to help him get acclimated?
He is the rawest quarterback out of this draft. And also I found funny that Will Levis also did not get
play.
any snaps. It was just Malik Willis. So that other could mean two things. One, Will Levis is good enough that he doesn't need anything, or it could be an indictment on Malik Willis saying, hey, yo, you need way more snaps than Will Levis does, because There was a report out when they drafted Will Levis saying Malik Willis is 1 foot out the door of the Titans already. They were ready to give up on him. So this could be trying to revive Malik Willis, and his chances to stay on the Titans as that backup quarterback or quarterback 3, depending on how they want to go about it. But Baker Mayfield is a former first overall pick. He won a playoff game with the Browns, had an opportunity actually to stop Mahomes and the Chiefs very early on. And Mahomes, I believe, in that 2018 season, but they couldn't stop. I believe his name is Chad Haney, who rushed for like 13 yards and like a 4th and 13. And I believe the Browns lost by 5 or 6 in that game. But Baker Mayfield actually had an opportunity to beat Mahomes in that playoff game and move to the AFC Championship game against Tom Brady, which, just thinking about that and saying those words, Baker Mayfield versus Tom Brady in the playoffs, very, very, very weird to say. But I will say this. Kyle Trask has been not great, but he's been pretty good. But Baker Mayfield should be the starting quarterback. And am I ready to take back? I talked about this last Wednesday. Am I ready to take back my sort of disgruntled take on Baker Mayfield? No, I'm not ready. Because one thing that I've now learned about Baker Mayfield is he'll be very, very interesting. He'll say he'll say a lot of the right things. He's got a very, very big personality. However, and you know what? He even will have a couple really, really good games. But it's about consistency. Baker Mayfield, he had a really, really good start to the season, right? It was he should have won that game against the Panthers. But then after that, there was a very, very long and tough road for Baker Mayfield. But then a miracle happened. He came to the Rams and had the tremendous comeback against the Raiders, and had a good game against the Broncos, which at the time I believe had the number 1 passing defense in the league. But I would say a majority of that Rams tenure, I believe he played 5 games for him, wasn't all that great. He had 2 really, really good games with the Rams. But that Panthers run, that was bad. Game 1 was good. The rest of it was bad. The end of that Browns run, he hurt himself. He had that torn labrum he tried to tackle one of the Texans defensive backs when he threw an interception. I believe it was in week 2. He didn't want to get surgery on it. And you put bad film out there. Not great, especially for a young quarterback nearing the end of his contract with the Browns. But the Browns moved off of you. But I will say this. Baker Mayfield he's looked like the better quarterback in the preseason so far. I actually found it very, very interesting that Baker got no snaps, 0, in this past preseason game. I expected to see him out there because the breakdown was...
How did Kyle Trask do?
Kyle Trask in the second preseason game. Let me bring it up. By the way, they won 13-6 against the Jets. The Jets did not look great. Kyle Trask went 20 of 28 for 218 yards and 1 touchdown.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Passer rating of 106.0. John Wolford actually was supposed to get a lot of those snaps, but dealt with a neck injury. He did go 4 for 4 for 57 yards, had a higher passer rating at 118.8. But I found it very interesting that even when Wolford went down, they didn't put Baker Mayfield out there. They put Kyle Trask back in there. So I kind of agree with you on the case where they're probably leaning towards Baker Mayfield, and because he's the veteran and he's probably going to be the starter, at least maybe in the back of their minds, they won't say it publicly to keep the competition going, to keep Baker Mayfield on his toes.
I guess if Trask continues to play like that, it makes it a tougher decision.
I would agree, but I still think Baker Mayfield's the right option because, first of all, both these quarterbacks are not great. Are they good? Baker Mayfield has his moments. Kyle Trask, we've barely seen him at all. But it's the best of the worst, or the best of the bad, or the best of the not very good. And I guess that would be Baker Mayfield. What can you expect from Baker Mayfield? You're gonna get a lot of great sound bites. You're gonna get a lot of hyped up press conferences, especially after wins. But on the field, I mean, against a pretty bad offensive line. I mean, we saw Brady got pressured a bunch last year, and he's the greatest quarterback of all time, and they only went 8-9. With Baker Mayfield now, with not a great offensive line, yes, he has 2 really, really good weapons in Godwin and in Mike Evans. I mean, I'm going to be excited to see Baker Mayfield. We'll talk about him throughout the season, how good he is or how bad he is, but expect a lot of batted balls, a lot of interceptions, a lot of bad decision-making, probably a lot of could-be interceptions that are just so poorly thrown that it's impossible to hold on to. But I'm not going to back down from saying Baker Mayfield should not be a starter in this league. The Bucs are desperate. It's Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask, and if I was Todd Bowles or was it Jason Light of the Buccaneers, I would say, let's go out, start Baker Mayfield. Let's get this rolling just to say he's the better of the not-so-great sort of kind of bad. But yeah, no, Baker Mayfield is the correct option here. And I just think, I mean, regardless, the Bucs are not going to be good this year, but will it be fun to watch Baker Mayfield out there on the field again in a Bucs jersey? Absolutely. I think the big question is, though, if the Bucs are really as bad as I'm saying they could be, do you start selling some pieces at the, or throughout the season before the trade deadline?
Well, they have some valuable pieces, right? Mike Evans,
Chris Godwin,
yeah, and the defense they have a few people too.
Devin
right?
White already
Yeah.
asked for a trade early in this offseason, so we could see him potentially be available. The Bucs could try to trade him away. You got a couple cornerbacks. I think Carlton Davis, Jamel Dean. You got a couple pieces there. But I mean, I really think there's a possibility where the Bucs could be sellers at the trade deadline and just sort of say, you know what, we're going to try to get as many draft picks as we can, sort of restart the ship, turn it around. We had Brady, we won a Super Bowl with Brady, and now Baker Mayfield's the best of the worst. We'll just let him play it out. Or they may put in Kyle Trask and just say, get reps, because we may go out and get Drake May or Quinn Ewers, or if they get the first overall pick, go out and get Caleb Williams. So I think the Bucs, regardless, the NFC South is absolutely abysmal. Anyone coming at
the Saints might be okay.
the Saints should be good. I think you could probably see 10 to 12 wins, I think. But depending
Really? 12 wins?
I don't have their schedule up, but their schedule isn't all that bad.
Well, they get to play all the other teams in their division who are terrible.
That is also true. You play 6 games against not so great teams, so that'll be interesting. However, the Saints, they're going to be good. The Panthers, I think, are going to be interesting with Bryce Young. The Falcons, what do I make of the Falcons? I heard they could win 9 games, 10 games. I think they could win 4, 5, 6 games. And then the Bucs, I think, are on the lower end there. You're probably looking at a 5 and 12.
I think the Bucs are going to have
6 and
a
11
very
season.
bad season.
Yeah,
I really think they're going to be very poor.
And I really think we could possibly see Chris Godwin or Mike Evans on the move. Now, what I
Might
want to
make
see,
sense for the Bucs. They could get pretty high draft picks for those guys.
and not only that, you could replace him with a cheaper, younger version in Marvin Harrison Jr. if you have a high pick. Top 3 pick. I guarantee you Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to go within that top 3. If you have a top 3 pick and he's available at that 2 or 3 spot, probably at that 3 spot, there you go. There's your brand new version of Mike Evans. Now, what I want to see, just out of continuity, is I want to see Mike Evans get another 1,000 yards and push to break Jerry Rice's record of consecutive seasons with 1,000 yards. I believe the record is 11, maybe 12. I think Mike Evans is at 9, if I'm not mistaken. So I want to see that streak continue. But hey, you just came off of Tom Brady, and Jameis Winston has a pretty good arm. Now you're dealing with Baker Mayfield with not so great arm,
It's
or
more
Kyle
mobile,
Trask.
though. I mean, Baker Mayfield is reasonably mobile.
Yes.
He can get out there and scramble a little bit.
Right.
And create some time to throw the ball. So
It's just a question of, if he creates that time, how accurate will that pass be?
Yeah, well,
All right,
we'll have to wait and see.
I'm not going to hate on Baker. I said on Wednesday, he looked good. I got to just see some consistency here, and that's the big thing with Baker. We've not seen any consistency. So if he comes out, throws 250 yards game 1, 270 game 2, 245 game 3, maybe only 2 turnovers in those first 3 games, I'll be like, okay, something's happening here. The pot's brewing a little bit. So we'll have to wait and see for the Bucs and Baker Mayfield. Let's get into our next topic here. So we talked about the Patriots side of this game, and now let's talk about the Packers side of this game. So Jordan Love looked pretty good. He threw for a touchdown this game. He actually threw some very, very nice passes in this game. He went 5 of 8 for 84 yards and a touchdown, a pass rating of 137.5. He averaged about 8.2 yards a completion.
I thought he went 12 of 18.
That's in 2 preseason games combined.
Oh, okay, combined. Okay.
That's what it says there. He went 12-18, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns in 2 preseason games. So he's been pretty good so far. He looked okay in the first preseason game. And in this one, I mean, the Patriots defense really couldn't stop him when he was out there. Besides that weird, messed up snap, he looked pretty good. So I want to know, what is your confidence level on a scale of 0 to 10 that Love and the Packers can be successful this season?
Well, I think Love now is finally out from the shadow of Aaron Rodgers, and I think that helps him a lot. I think Aaron Rodgers had a weird vibe on the Packers. He's trying to correct that a little bit with the Jets, trying to be a little friendlier, trying to be a little more open, trying to be a little more communicative with the other players on the team. He was not that way in Green Bay. I'm sure that I don't know what the relationship was between he and Jordan Love, but he was definitely in the shadow of Aaron Rodgers there. And now the shadow is gone. Aaron Rodgers is not there anymore. He's with the Jets. Jordan Love is stepping up. 12 of 18, 130 yards, two TDs in 2 preseason games. He looked really good in the second game against what is a very good defense. He was out there at the beginning, so he was playing against some of the Patriots' better players, and he excelled. So maybe he will do well this year, and maybe the Packers will be a playoff contender in their division, which is not that strong a division.
Really, you say that they could be potential playoff contenders?
Yeah.
Well,
they have a good defense. They have a great running game. They have a good offensive line.
They do.
It's really, the wide receivers are, I think there's 6 of them, 4 of them are rookies. So that's not too good for Jordan Love. I think that's going to make it a little tougher. But he could be game manager there for a while, running the ball and having the defense keep the other team off the field.
I will say this. Based on what I saw Jordan Love do to the Patriots, can the Packers replicate last season with Jordan Love at the helm instead of Aaron Rodgers? Yes, they can.
Well, last season that's not a very high bar to jump over.
But that's all they need for a very young quarterback, especially trying to back up what Aaron Rodgers brought to that. Let's
look at the schedule. It looks pretty easy.
The first 5 weeks, you could very well go, at the worst, I think you go 3-2. And the only losses I would say are the Raiders and the Saints. 3-2 is the worst you could maybe do. In reality, you could very well go, depending on how bad Jimmy G is, you can go 5-0.
I thought the Lions were supposed to be really good this year.
They still have I guarantee you, they'll have a bottom 10 defense still. Yeah. Their offense may be explosive, but their defense is going to be bad. And you know what we've seen from Jordan Love so far is we saw against the Eagles when he came in for Aaron Rodgers, when Aaron Rodgers went out with an injury, we saw a little bit of life. We saw a little bit of spark. We saw something interesting. And that's the big thing that the Packers need. Like you talked about before, Rodgers sort of had a hold on that organization, and now it's been lifted. It's been lifted. Now it's Jordan Love's time.
It's a fresh start.
Beautiful fresh start. So I want to go through this very quickly. The Bears, that's going to be interesting. I don't have a tremendous faith in Justin Fields. At least I'm not saying he's the highest MVP betting favorite. That blew my mind how that was the case. I don't agree with that. But I think that game could be interesting. Aaron Rodgers has owned the Bears. Does that continue with just now the Packers own the Bears? Who knows? The Falcons, I don't think they're going to be as good of a team as people say they do. I think a definite loss probably is against the Saints. I think the Saints are a really, really good team through and through. The Lions still have a bad defense. The Raiders, is Jimmy G going to be healthy at that point? Is Jimmy G going to be even good at that point? Who knows? Also, the Raiders have had...
What's the running back situation in the Raiders? What's his name?
I do not think Josh Jacobs is back. I still think he's
issue
gone.
for them.
That is.
It's a big issue for them.
Then you go up against the bye. Then you go against the Broncos with the resurgence of Russell Wilson, potentially. That could be interesting. The Vikings, you're going to beat. The Rams have not looked good in this preseason. I feel very, very bad about saying that the Rams win 8, 9 games this season. They have not looked good. As predicted, the defense is abysmal. The Steelers, Kenny Pickett has been tearing up right now in the preseason. That is looking more and more like a loss, if you ask me. The Chargers, Justin Herbert, Lions, bad defense. Chiefs, that's definitely a loss. Giants, Daniel Jones was doing Danny Dimes things in the preseason this past weekend, so who knows? The Bucs are abysmal. Panthers are not great. Vikings, that's probably another loss. And then the Bears, do you still own the Bears? Who knows?
Looks like the beginning of the season, the end of the season is good for the Packers. The middle section there is tougher.
Right.
Right?
You're probably looking at week 14 to 18. That's where you get the most easy games. And then weeks 1 to 5, obviously. You have a couple maybe easy games in the Rams and the Lions, but week 14 to 18, that's where you see a lot of the easier teams, and then obviously week 1 to 5 right before your bye. So I'm probably looking at a 8-9 team right now, which I think, hey, who knows? That could be the second best team in the NFC North. I got no idea. I do have the Lions winning that division, by the way. I do think they could win 10, 11 games this season. But could the Packers replicate an 8-9 season with Jordan Love at the helm? Absolutely they can. Because I think just as if he stays smart, does the LaFleur offense We could see, I'm not saying fireworks show and light flashes and beautiful. I'm just saying be efficient. Be effective. Play the Jimmy G kind of an offense where you don't got to be this uber athlete. Just get the ball to the open guy. And what I saw from Christian Watson was last season, once him and Rodgers got connected, Aaron Rodgers takes off seasons off, doesn't love young receivers. When they finally connected a week like 10, 11, that's where they started to blend really well. Romeo Doubs, he's a decent question mark, but I think he had a really, really good catch versus the Patriots. You don't have Alan Lazard anymore. I think that's a big loss. However, you still have thunder and lightning in Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, and the Patriots had a difficult time stopping both of them. I mean, Aaron Jones, I think, came in for one carry, but A.J. Dillon, he caused a little bit of trouble early on in that game against the Patriots, starting defensive players.
I think it's all up for the Packers. It's up to Jordan Love, right? Because they do have a good running game. They could have a good offensive line. They have a decent defense.
Right.
So it's really, can Jordan Love step up and be productive?
Yeah.
Right? Not keep the mistakes to a minimum and, make good calls out there on the field. I think his weakness, and I don't understand this, he has the receivers are all very young.
Right.
Four rookies, and the other two guys are only second-year players. So why wouldn't they have a quality, proven wide receiver for him to throw to, given that he's just coming in for his first time as a starter?
People have asked that even about when Aaron Rodgers was quarterback. Get him a first-round pick wide receiver. Get him some sort of quality.
He had that.
And in who? Devontae Adams wasn't.
Devontae Adams.
I don't think he was. Was he a first round pick? I don't think he was a first round.
He played like he was.
He was the number one receiver in the league, but I don't think he was a first round pick. And that's the thing. The Packers have found actually a lot of good, talented wide receivers in the second round. So that's the thing. You don't necessarily need a first round wide receiver to be great. You just need a good enough quarterback, a good enough offensive line to have everything gel. And I think is it out of the ordinary to say the Packers go 8-9, 9-8 with Jordan Love as quarterback? I don't think that's out of the possibility at all. Hell, I think that's actually a pretty good possibility that they don't look terrible, but they also don't look great. Are they the best team in the division? No. Are they the third best? Probably. I'd put the Lions over them, and I'd put the Vikings over them, but I don't think the Vikings are going 11-0 in one-score games, and the Lions have a terrible defense. Now, I still believe the Lions will still win 10, 11 games.
I don't think the Vikings will be as good as they were last year.
I agree with you. And besides, the starting running back.
I think they had some luck
absolutely.
last year.
Your consistent 1,000-yard running back in Dalvin Cook is gone. I believe you've released him. So you won't have that dynamic running game you're hoping for, but you do have a rookie wide receiver to replace Adam Thielen. You still have Justin Jefferson, who probably is the best receiver in the league, and Kirk Cousins in 1 p.m. games is good. Outside of 1 p.m., when the lights are the brightest, he comes up the smallest. So, I don't know. 11-0 in one-score games is I believe, is an NFL record. I do not expect that this year. So I do think they'll take a step back. I think the Lions will take a step forward, and I think the Packers will stay stationary at 8-9 this season. However, in 2 weeks, we're bringing all the topics back. We got the Harvey Hot Hands coming back for week 1 of the regular season. I'm doing my Nate's Notches, the team tiers. I'm doing my top 10 quarterbacks and we're doing our standings predictions. We have a busy week in 2 weeks. The NFL season's jump starting very, very soon.
Can't wait for it to get going.
Absolutely. But let's get into our final topic. So we've probably talked about this for probably the past 4 episodes, but it is a story. It's Sam Darnold versus Trey Lance, and now maybe, as we heard on Friday, potentially even versus Brock Purdy, as one report said, although we both agree Brock Purdy is 100% the starting quarterback. So it's really just Sam Darnold versus Trey Lance as that quarterback too. Trey Lance, actually, he looked okay in the game against the Broncos. He went 12 of 18 for 173 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. He also had a potential, should have been, another interception in that game, late in that game. But they did beat the Broncos in their first preseason win. And based on what you saw from Trey Lance, do you think he still has a future for the San Francisco 49ers?
I do.
Really? Wow. Okay. Why?
Because the 49ers quarterbacks, for whatever reasons, always get hurt.
That's true.
So, they went through 3 quarterbacks last year. At the very end of the season, they didn't even have a quarterback. They were all hurt.
Yeah.
Right? So Brock Purdy was just out there handing off. He couldn't even throw the ball. So I don't know what it is with that team, but they have a tough time hanging on to keeping quarterbacks healthy. So I think that there's a chance that Trey Lance will get his chance, and I do think that he has a chance to beat out Sam Darnold for the second spot.
So here's the thing.
You look at him, and he's definitely in terms of the athletic ability.
Yes.
He is head and shoulders over Darnold. He's
Correct.
taller than he is.
Correct. 6'4".
He's faster than he is.
He's 6'4".
He's
I think
bigger
he's
than he
240, and he's extremely athletic. Yes.
And Darnold doesn't have the greatest decision-making record in football, and some of the decisions he's made over the years, turnovers he's made and stuff. So I'd say you give him kind of maybe close to equal on that, except that Darnold's had a lot more experience than Lance has. But I think that if you were thinking about the future, I would go with Lance more than I would go with Darnold. That's for sure.
And I would agree with you just on the premise of he's younger. That's the only reason why I would say that.
No, but he's more athletic. He has the much greater upside. I still think he has the upside. I think he started to show that in this game, right? And he wasn't playing with all the best players out there.
Correct.
Right? So, and he did quite well. After the first game, he didn't play that well. The criticism of him was unbelievable, how badly people were picking on him. What are they saying now after the second? You listen to the sports shows more than I do.
I do.
What are they saying about Trey Lance now after the second game?
They still agree with me. They still agree with me that Trey Lance won't be that guy for the 49ers. Yeah. And here, you know what? I'm going to tell you why. Because people and talk show hosts and sports show hosts, of course they'll rip on Trey Lance. You know why? Because a team thought, and you displayed yourself, a team spent 3 first-round picks and a second-round pick to go up and get you. They thought you were better than Mac Jones, better than Justin Fields. You probably, if the Jets didn't set in stone Zach Wilson, they probably would have thought you're better than Zach Wilson. They moved up to get you. So if you spend 3 first-round picks and a second-round pick to go up and draft a guy like Trey Lance, who I agree with you, if you take a look at his physical attributes, he's 6'4". I think he's 220 or 240. I mean, he's literally a phenomenal specimen when you talk about the football build. He's very, very athletic. I agree with you there. However, he doesn't fit in with the Kyle Shanahan system. Who has fit in with the Kyle Shanahan system? Matt Schaub was a Pro Bowler under Kyle Shanahan in that offensive scheme. Matt Ryan was great with that scheme. Jimmy G made it to a Super Bowl and probably should have made it to a second one. He made it to another NFC Championship game and beat Aaron Rodgers in Lambeau in pristine Aaron Rodgers conditions. And they brought him back even though they said this is Trey Lance's team. And hell, even Sam Darnold has looked good in the preseason so far. He went 11 of 14, 109 yards with a touchdown and an interception. You take a look at that interception that Sam Darnold had. It was actually a pretty well thrown ball. It went through the hands of a receiver and got tipped beautifully into a waiting Broncos defensive back. I will say this though, Trey Lance, at least so far, you'll say this, and I agree with you. However, this is just a circumstance. In his small sample size, we've seen one attribute that does not make him a top 32 quarterback in the league, at least starting-wise, and that's his poor decision-making. We talk about Trey Lance. Trey Lance had an interception, and I just mentioned Sam Darnold's interception. This was Trey Lance's interception. A quick, no-look, quick decision to a defensive end. He didn't really look at the running back. He knew he was there because that's the play design. The defensive end was in front of him for a few seconds there.
Pressure.
Yes, he was under pressure. However, that's just a bad decision. I mean, didn't even look at him. Didn't even realize the defensive end beat his right tackle. So when you come to decision making, at least look at the guy you're throwing it to before you throw it to him. In his career, he has a below 55% completion percentage. He has 54.9. He has 797 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 picks, a 2-2 record. Not great. And Kyle Shanahan, this is the one thing about Kyle Shanahan's system. You don't need to be the biggest. You don't have to be the fastest. Can you get the guy? Can you get the ball to the guy who's ultimately going to be open? And that's what makes the 49ers offense sort of, pluck in, pluck out, and it works. Jimmy G in, Jimmy G out. Brock Purdy in, Brock Purdy out. Matt Schaub in, Matt Schaub out. Matt Ryan in, Matt Ryan out. And it works. It just works. And for Trey, even in the preseason, Sam Darnold in, Sam Darnold out. And so far, we've seen Trey Lance in 3 seasons now not look that great. Actually, he's looked pretty bad. Now, this, at least there was something there. There wasn't a complete, devastation. But before that last drive actually was pretty good. He made a couple nice throws. There was one over the middle of the field to number 83, who I don't have in front of me. It was a beautiful throw. However, we haven't really seen greatness, and that's why it's easy to go to Brock Purdy, because he came in and immediately, when he was healthy, they went, 7-8-0? The end of the regular season, 5-0, and continued the 10-game winning streak that Jimmy G started when he came in for Trey Lance. So all I'm saying is, right? Yes, small sample size. Yes, super young quarterback. Yes, a lot of criticism. But your team traded away 3 first-round picks to get you, and you were supposed to be the guy. And 3 seasons of training camps proved to them, we're not 100% trusting in you. So much so, they brought in, who we both think is a bust, Sam Darnold in, and he could take your spot on the team. So all I'm saying is, you know what? Maybe he's not the right fit for the 49ers. Could he be on a different team? I think he could be. Hell, I think he should be, because he's a super young quarterback. You're not paying him for you're not paying him for next season. You could add that 5th-year option if you want. But the 49ers are going to need to make a decision whether or not they're going to give him his 5th-year option. And if he's going to be QB2 or probably was looking like QB3, you're not going to want to give him the 5th-year option. So in reality, I'm telling you right now, I'm making a prediction. I'm making a week 2 preseason prediction. By the trade deadline, Trey Lance will be on a different team. There is, unless they do that emergency quarterback thing, which for Kyle Shanahan's offenses, that's kind of what you have to do. Jimmy G has been the only solo season starter back in 2019, and even with his injury history, that's shocking. The only reason you would keep Trey Lance is for that emergency third quarterback. Otherwise, get whatever you can for him, because
so you think he's going to be traded?
I think unless they do the emergency quarterback thing and don't trust Brock Purdy. I think if Brock Purdy looks great, looks healthy, is fine, offensive line's holding up, I think they should get rid of him. Because
I predict they won't.
And for the reason why, they want to keep that third quarterback in case of injury.
They want to keep the third quarter in case of injury. Also, I think they're afraid they trade him and he goes somewhere and he's a world beater, they'll look like fools.
But that's something you have to take, though.
Right? Because they did give up 3 first-round picks. They won't get that for him in a trade.
Not even nowhere near.
Nowhere near that. So if they trade him and he goes somewhere and he's a world beater, then they will look like fools. So I don't think they're going to do that this year.
I don't think they look like massive fools, because Brock Purdy went undefeated and he was a Mr. Irrelevant. They don't got to pay him for 3 more seasons.
They didn't give up anything for him. They grafted him, what, the 7th-round pick?
The very, very last pick in the draft.
The last pick in the draft.
The very, very last pick in the draft. So they don't got to pay him for, 2 more seasons, 3 more seasons.
Yeah.
And so they're basically set for a number of years. Trey Lance, you got to determine whether or not you're going to pay him in 2 years to give him his 5th-year option or get rid of him. You're not going to give a guy a 5th-year option if he's not your starting quarterback here. Now, if Brock Purdy's injury-prone, that's when Trey Lance or Sam Darnold are going to come in, and Sam Darnold's a bust. Kyle Shanahan says that he can maybe revive Sam Darnold's career. That wouldn't shock me, because guess what? He made Matt Schaub a Pro Bowler. That blows people away when you realize that. Matt Ryan looked great under his system.
Ryan was an MVP, wasn't he?
He was an MVP. And Jimmy G, who people call terrible, he made it to a Super Bowl, made it to another NFC Championship game, should have made it to the Super Bowl that year. And so I just think the one player who has not been able to make this system work, regardless of physical attributes, is Trey Lance.
Yeah,
Sam Darnold make this offense look good. Yeah. Trey Lance, this was promising.
The only thing I would say there, you'll remember that Trey Lance, they knew when he came in that he played very little football.
Yeah.
And he played in a small system.
North Dakota State.
Play in a big time, going out into a stadium where there's 60, 70,000 people. He never did that. So they knew that he was a work in progress, and he still is. And he got hurt. He was out almost all of last season.
He played one game, and I think he threw 3 passes in that second game. Yeah. So I will say this, though.
I still think he's an unknown. He's somewhat of an unknown.
Of course he's an unknown. And I just think when it comes to San Francisco, it's not bad quarterback, right team. It could just be right quarterback, bad circumstances, because Jimmy G, I think, just made it to a Super Bowl or just made it, deep into the playoffs when they drafted Trey Lance. And so it was like, Jimmy G's still really good. He's dealing with injuries, so we'll draft a guy as his backup who could potentially take over the team. He comes in, gets hurt. Jimmy G looks good. Brock Purdy comes alive. And now you're still stuck with Trey Lance saying Brock Purdy's better, or Brock Purdy looks significantly better, but we still have you. What do we do with you? And that's where I think you got. Here's the thing: if you're not going to use him, get rid of him, because you got to get something for him. If he's your third quarterback, if he's your second quarterback, and Brock Purdy looks perfectly fine and is healthy through most of the season, when it comes to that week 8, week 9 trade deadline, and Brock Purdy showed he has no injuries, no bang up and bruises. He's just going to be a rotting value on your team that you traded 3 first. I think you traded 4 picks.
We'll see. I don't believe they'll trade him this year.
I think they should, regardless if they do or not. They should, because guess what? I guarantee you, if he does not play, and let's say they decide to trade him away in that 4th year, if Brock Purdy remains that starter next year, you'll get a 5th-round pick at the very best, and that's to a desperate team. We're talking Washington, maybe the Falcons, maybe the Raiders, depending on Jimmy G's status. A 5th-round pick for a desperate team.
Yeah.
The 49ers were so desperate, they brought in a bust in Sam Darnold. Could replace Trey Lance's QB2, and he's going to sit there on your roster. I think maybe it's not a bad quarterback. Maybe it's just a bad situation and an unfortunate situation. And you know what? If Trey Lance does go to a different team and balls out, more power to him. That's perfect. But on the 49ers, he's rotting away. He's 6'4", 220, 224. The perfect specimen, and he's athletic. Literally, the perfect football body. That's what you want. 6'4", 6'5", 220 to 240, who's athletic. Decision-making, bad accuracy, does not fit the Kyle Shanahan offense. We saw, average quarterbacks make it work. Average to below average quarterbacks make it work. Trey Lance just hasn't been able to get it done. Could be young, could be just not fitting the system. Yeah. Who knows? That does wrap up today's episode of the Harvey Hour. Pretty good show today. We went a little over an hour. I know you always like to keep track of that. We talk Friday. We talk about Aaron Rodgers. He's getting a start this weekend against the Giants. That'll be interesting. We'll also recap the Patriots, what we should expect. We get some more rookies out there as well. We'll talk about them. We got a big show coming up on Friday. Big show coming up next week. We're bringing back a lot of the topics for the football season. NBA season starts up in 2 months. We got a lot of sports coming our way. There's a lot to talk about. James Harden.
Still a lot of baseball to talk about.
Yeah, the Red Sox could be, emerging as a
We'll see. Next
team.
week we'll know a lot more about whether their chances are any good or not. They will have played a lot of tough games in the next week or so.
Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see. But for this episode of the Harvey Hour, my name is Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We are your co-hosts of the Harvey Hour. Catch us Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.
Introducing video podcasts on Spotify.
Transform your storytelling into a show everyone can watch
Or listen to.
Easily upload your video through Anchor, Spotify's free podcast creation tool.
So whether you're showing off a new recipe,
Interviewing an exclusive guest,
or uncovering the next mystery,
you can now reach a whole new audience with Spotify.
podcasting just became more than audio.
Create with Anchor, watch on Spotify.